Hi, and welcome back to the Adrienne Balcom Show. I'm Adrienne Balcom, and this is episode 2. Today I'm joined by Erin Easter. Erin is a wife, mother, animal lover, gardener, farmer's market shopper, marketing professional in the technology industry, and someone many residents may know her from involvement in our community and her recent campaign for McLendon-Chisholm City Council. Erin, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Well, before we begin, I want to provide a little context for our listeners. The events we're discussing today center around a series of social media posts that appeared in April 2025. While some of those original posts have since been removed, those typical screenshots that just disappear, well, they've been documented on my website. The post appeared in the Concerned RCH Customers Facebook group, which is managed by Sherry London, the wife of current City Council member Dennis London. On April 28, 2025, Eric Logan posted a political video that included photographs of several community members, current and former elected officials, and some residents, including both you and me. The video was shared during the May 2025 charter election and presented a narrative that certain individuals were responsible for division within the community, increased taxpayer costs, and opposition to accountability measures associated with the proposed charter. So, 2 days later, on April 30th, 2025, another conversation unfolded on social media. Comments were posted discussing law enforcement activity in McLean Chisholm. As the discussion continued, specific statements were made identifying an address and associating the activity with Aaron's family. Those comments quickly sparked confusion, speculation, and concern within the community. So, although some of the original posts were later removed, the screenshots remain. More than a year later, questions still linger about what happened, how information spread so quickly, and what responsibility public officials have when sharing information online. Today, we're discussing those events with someone who experienced them firsthand. Erin, thank you again for being willing to share your story. Can you take us back to that morning and tell us what happened?
Sure. So that morning at 6 a.m., which normally we would have been up by 6 a.m., but I work with a team, or my team that I um, work with is in Israel, and it was an Israeli holiday. So I could sleep in for an extra, 15, 20 minutes, and I took advantage of that. And, I heard a gigantic bang. I thought a car might have hit our house, and my husband went, Michael Easter, went to the front door and didn't come back. And in the back of the house, you really can't hear what's going on in the front of the house, outside, because we have, I don't know if they're triple glazed windows, but, you really can't hear what's going on outside. Um And so I finally worked up the courage to go look outside, and I could then hear, only then when I got to the front door, could I hear someone yelling at me, and they were yelling at me to come, walk with I had, spotlights shining in my eyes. That's all I could see. I couldn't really see much else, but I could see guns, and, there was a big BearCat on my front lawn with, I can't tell you how many guns pointed at me and yelling at me to walk across my lawn without my shoes on, shortly after I had a hip replacement surgery, and if anybody had looked at my, driver's license, they would have seen that I was disabled, but no, they made me walk, without my cane. And so I had to walk across the lawn. They tried to put me in a car. I didn't feel comfortable sitting there because my hip was in pain. It was crazy. And I'm being asked all these questions about, various things. I'm worried about my dogs. We have protection dogs. I was afraid one of my dogs might have gotten shot. What I didn't know is that they did let my husband back in, and um, were able to let him let the dogs out and stuff like that. So that was my main concern. And then shortly thereafter, we were let back in our house. It was crazy, and we were told that that they were searching our house for something, that they, associated with my son, and my son had not lived there for quite some time. If they had looked up his, licensing information, they would have seen that he had moved quite some time ago and that he didn't even have a Texas license anymore. He had moved to another state. So and had done so a long time ago, and then they were trying to insinuate that it was because he was involved in some kind of illegal activity, which, absolutely was not true. So, um, anyway, it was all very, you know, very traumatic having that happen to you, especially, as a person who tries to stay on the up and up, and, we've lived our whole entire lives, trying to do the right thing, trying to do good works, be good Christians, and to have something happen to you like that out of the blue, when we're completely approachable is is crazy, and, um, after the main group of people, with the BearCats and stuff like that, after that all cleared out, which cleared out, to their credit, cleared out very quickly. We had the sheriff's officers, sitting behind, talking to us about, just random stuff, and they actually seemed very nice. The sheriff's deputies who remained were, talking to us about baseball and talking to us about, all kinds of different things, and they seemed, actually kind of apologetic. And during those conversations, we did raise concerns because they left our house with nothing. When you have these big raids, usually they're there all day. They're taking away boxes of information or computers and stuff. None of that happened in our case. In fact, they were out of our house in, I would say, less than 2 hours. And we, so assumed that there was, nothing to this. And we talked about our concerns about, things that had happened in the past with the assault that happened at City Hall, against Councilman Floyd McClendon. And, my husband brought up that, he was aware that some of the, contents of the affidavit had been disclosed, namely to the aggressor himself, who's our mayor, and that we didn't want, inappropriate disclosure of, information being disseminated. And the deputy that we were talking to said, "Oh, absolutely not. That would never happen. Every ounce of information is gonna come through my desk, and you don't have to worry about that." And, but that is not what happened.
Well, first off, I don't think there's an actual word that could even equal to the horror or tremendous traumatic explanation or adjective to describe what you just shared with me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not giving it justice. I have a glass front door. Anytime, bright lights are shining through my glass front door, my blood pressure goes up, my heart rate goes up. If I hear, like a clicking of a shotgun, like, I will not be doing skeet shooting anytime soon.
Yeah.
It gives me, yeah, I'm not giving it justice. I think I've kind of disassociated a little bit from it. But yes, I'm not accurately, um, relaying the traumatic nature of what happened to us.
Yeah, I am so sorry that this remotely happened, and so so as far as like you as you were describing, your son was not home at all. And then it would have taken someone to just look it up in the system. I don't know what system they would actually use besides the driver's license and that to confirm that he wasn't there. But even so, I mean, having a conversation with y'all. But let's just take this back for a moment. So nobody was physically hurt. Nothing was taken.
No, nothing was taken from our house. Nobody was physically hurt or anything. I mean, I was definitely uncomfortable having to walk without my cane, but, whatever, and they didn't bother to, figure out that, that was going on, or that I have a handicap placard on my car. If they would have seen my car, they would have seen it. But no.
Yeah,
So
you
yeah,
had a
nobody was hurt.
you had a surgery, I think it was what, 4 or 5 months before? It had to happen.
Mhm. Yeah, the November before, yeah.
Yeah, and so, so at what point, I mean, did you so obviously it's a lot that just happened, and
Yes.
you felt like you had a conversation and that they were gonna be cordial and they felt like it was, they were apologetic as you described. So, when did you start feeling like there was information being shared publicly online? I mean, did I mean, did you get a call or anything like that? Did your neighbors reach out to you? Um, did you see any posts before any calls? Did you receive any calls about it?
Um, it started out there were a couple of posts. There was 1 or 2 in my neighborhood, but not that I could see. It was just more about concern, not about, any information, more like just what's going on.
Mhm.
So, to that I understand. Nobody reached out to me in my neighborhood, which I thought was weird, or at least not immediately.
Mhm.
And then, shortly thereafter, I would say, I don't know, maybe an hour later, we started getting concerned phone calls from our friends. And then, just throughout that whole day, just so many people calling to saying, "Oh my God, are you okay? What happened?" Or, things like that.
So did you reach out to any of the city hall staff? Did they even hear your side of the story or anything like that? Like, "Hey, that this y'all need to be aware that this happened," anything like that?
I know my husband could talk to this because I think he might have reached out. I don't think it was that day, but it was. If it was that day, it was later in the day, and it was possibly the next day. But we were made aware at some point in the day. I don't know if it was lunchtime or something like that. Um, that and we still have jobs. I still went to work that day.
Mhm.
um,
Wow, you're a
we
trooper.
yeah, it was crazy. Um, so we were working, but someone did make us aware that someone, was posting information that, could only have been known by someone, in the sheriff's office. Like,
Ahead.
some of the information, like, we didn't even know. So, that was our kind of first indication that, "What the hell?" You know? What is going on here? So I don't know when he contacted them, but he wanted to know, what's going on. But he didn't really get anywhere.
That's with your husband and was trying to find out information.
Yes, because he was on city council at that point.
Mhm. So, I'm sure that you probably saw the post that I or the article that I wrote, and I shared the screenshot that was, on, the RCH Concerned, Facebook group page. Did you notice that this, well, I guess he's now council member Dennis London, he wrote what he wrote. He included your address, he included Michael's name, and I mean, how did you feel, like, about him sharing this information like that?
Uh, First, I was horrified that what, like, I was just floored. Um, I don't know these people. Um, I, why would they have this information? He wasn't on city council at that point. He was very pro the, what do you call it? The charter thing that was, I think that was gonna be voted on, or maybe it had already been voted on.
It was on the election ballot, that May, and he served as vice chair on the charter committee.
That's true, that's right. And so they were very pro that, and, I was not pro the charter, but, who cares? Like, I was against it because it was just gonna cost the city a lot of money. Our city's not very big. there would be a time and place for us to have a charter, but we're just not that big yet to justify all of the extra costs that go along with that style of government. So that was my only like this was not a big deal. So it was like that can't be it. So moving on, it was just I was floored.
Mhm.
And obviously, I followed up with this sheriff saying, "Oh, I thought you said nothing nothing was getting out. Where is this coming from?" And he said, "Nobody should know about this." And I went through a bunch of people. Would this person know about it? Would that person? No, no, no. And I said, "Well, this only came from your office. So where did it come from?" And he said he would go talk to the sheriff about it. And I never got a call back.
You have not received a call back?
No call back, no apologizing, no nothing. And we've received nothing.
Mhm. Well, usually when they have some sort of raids or certain types of, major, I don't know, activity like this, you would assume there would be some sort of press release that would be issued out, um, from the public entity that's involved. So I was surprised that there wasn't anything to address that.
I
Um,
I kind of was too. I'm glad that there wasn't, just for selfish reasons. Because you have I think there was a raid, I don't know if it was in Vader Roy City, in the months after, I don't remember exactly when it was. And they did have a press release on that, but they didn't on ours. So yeah, I don't know what that was about. And I don't know what happened with that one either. And the odd thing was that when the sheriff's officers or sheriff deputies were chatting with us kind of informally, in our house before everything wrapped up, when they were just talking cordially with us, they were saying, "Well, yeah, we know you. We know that Michael is on city council and, we know you guys." And it's like, well, then why didn't you just knock on the door?
right, right.
Right? Like, what you could have just knocked on the door and done the same thing. We would have invited you in. Like, look for whatever you want. We don't have anything to hide. And it was just crazy because, like, we had construction going on. We had a bathroom being replaced and all of this stuff because I need to have, we've been getting rid of showers or bathtubs for showers because of my arthritis stuff. And so we were kind of in the middle of that, stuff's everywhere, and it's like, we you could have come and done this. We just by knocking on the door. You didn't need to point rifles at us and drive a BearCat on our lawn and traumatize our whole neighborhood, you know?
Right. Is that a BearCat, uh, is it one of those SWAT vehicles?
Yeah, like something you would see in a war zone.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay. And so there was lights everywhere. There's just like, and so when we talk about a flash bomb, I don't know if people know what that term is. Obviously, it's not a common thing that happens in my neighborhood, but,
I didn't either beforehand, but there was a big black sooty or, circle where like it literally it shook the house. It We are really lucky it didn't shatter the glass in our door. It sounded like a car hit our house. That's what it sounded like.
oh my gosh. Erin,
I know.
gosh, gosh. Okay, and how many dogs do you have?
We have our giant Schnauzer Duke and his 2 puppies, Dora the Explorer and Hanky. And, luckily, the puppies were, crated because they were still young. Um, I don't think they were still, like, 8, 9 months at the time. And, but Duke is a serious protection dog, like, they wouldn't have been allowed in the house without my husband, securing him.
Mhm. So let's talk about, the human impact, like, the days after, the weeks after that followed all this. So did anyone from like city leadership, city staff, or just any of the individuals, were they trying to avoid open records requests? Were they, just helpful, trying to give Michael whatever he needed to address at the city level any type of needs? Are you aware of anything like he was being hindered in any way?
It certainly seemed that way. It certainly seemed that something was going on. I know that my husband was very upset about a um some news outlet had supposedly reached out to the mayor um and asking for information about this story, but how would they have known about it? I mean, that didn't make any sense. So he tried to get to the bottom of where that came from, and he ultimately got nowhere. Like, it it's it people were saying, "Oh, well, they didn't contact us, they contacted people personally," and we didn't get any straight answers about how that came about, but nothing came of it. Like, whatever was said to whatever news outlet at question, all we know is that the city attorney was directed to, or the city attorney directed the staff to not say anything, um, and nothing became of it. So, and we don't know what it's who said what to who thereafter. We don't know.
Mhm. Well, one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation is because it touches on a larger issue that, that single Facebook post has made. And it's a conversation about accountability, responsibility, and public trust. And I think that's been a very hot topic lately, considering that there's been people who've been recording staff to other council members to people who are elected officials, unbeknownst to them, by the way. And,
Right.
it's just becoming a thing, and then, there's just a number of issues that have occurred in this county, and it just seems like people are just it's like they're in a club, they can just do whatever they want, and but they can sit there and squawk all day about transparency and accountability and this and that, but they don't really mean it.
Exactly. And, there's a lot of frustrated people. And now, you see Fate has all of these recalls, recalls going one way and recalls going the other. And I understand people don't like the division, but you can't let things that are going on that are not right not be addressed. You have to people in the city have to be able to address things that are happening that maybe shouldn't be, and that doesn't make you a naysayer or anything. You're just doing what you think is right. And I know before all of in the weeks leading up to possibly even months leading up to the raid on our house, there was, repeated text messages from the mayor to my husband saying that, he expected him to get on the train and he wanted unanimous votes and he wanted the city council to talk with one voice and things like that. And of course, anybody who is a student of American government, that has never been a thing. That is not how the democratic process works. There should be robust discussion because we all have different points of view, and it doesn't mean anybody's better than anybody else, but we all have our own perspective, and you hash out the right answer by addressing the concerns of all people. And that doesn't mean one wins over the other. The best solutions usually come from discussion with lots of people,
Mhm.
and that doesn't come from unanimous votes. And he had actually texted to him, I don't know if it was once or twice, but threatening to recall him. So this had already become a thing here in McLendon-Chisholm. You're now seeing it in Fate, and I just think I don't think the people of Rockwall County are uniquely whiny or anything. I think they are frustrated, and I can't even really put my finger on exactly what it is. I have some ideas, but there's something going on in this county that is causing people to be so frustrated that they are recalling people and causing other people, residents' houses to be raided. That's crazy.
Mhm.
And from what I understand, these aren't isolated incidents. So it's really disheartening. I wouldn't have expected this from here, but here's where we're at.
So, do you think that these types of experiences, I mean, or do you think that this is the kind of stuff that people are not really willing to run for office anymore or to speak up at meetings and share different opinions, and that's why you see a lot of anonymous people writing posts and or writing not just writing posts, but writing comments because they've seen the wave or whatever you wanna call it.
Absolutely. I mean, I ran for city council this last time as part of a block. I wouldn't have run by myself. Um, and that didn't go our way, which is fine. But why didn't it go our way? We couldn't People who had our signs up were being harassed. People people had already formed opinions based on things that people had said that just were flat out not true. Um, and, I think any election, some of that goes on. But when you're talking about someone's character, um, about like criminal stuff, that's a whole other level. You can say, well, this person, they like to spend a lot of the city's money more than I would like. I would like to see us to have a bigger emergency fund. That's my point of view. The other folks, have a little bit more willingness to spend down to having no reserves or very little reserves. That's a difference of opinion. That shouldn't spark this kind of behavior, you know?
So do you think it's possible that this type of incident, I don't even know what we call this particular event that occurred to you and similar things to what happened to Floyd, I mean, do you think it's possible that these were used as political, um, ways to say to other people, "Well, you shouldn't vote for them," or maybe it's a political, targeting, situation where they use this against the candidate?
Well, I think, yes, they definitely used, I think there were some, Facebook posts by, Sherry London calling us angry moms and that we're just whiners and things like that just because we don't agree with her. That's crazy. We can have a difference opinion and have a discussion about whether things, my point of view is better, but you don't call people names. Like that's crazy. So yeah, no, people don't want to get involved with that. That's a whole other level of crazy. That is teenager behavior. I'm a professional. I know Floyd's a professional. Um, we why would we wanna be involved with this? And I think back now, I was like, "Why did I even run?" It was a stupid idea, because I don't wanna get involved with that, but I also love my city, and I want to stay here, and love my house, I love my neighbors, I wanna stay here, and these people are making it really difficult because we're really gonna be in a pickle at some point when the money runs out.
I think it's more than that. I mean, these types of decisions that they're making at the local level. I mean, we're already kind of seeing it right now with the traffic. I mean, I don't think people really realize the decisions that have been made like years ago. We're now seeing the trickle effect well, I should say indecision or lack of making a decision. And then in addition to that, there's other issues where, when you're choosing certain aspects of zoning, and we're seeing that right now on inside the four corners of McLendon-Chisholm. I mean, these are decisions that they have made because they failed to read the material or even understand the material. And if it doesn't go according to what they're being told to do, they remove those people out of the way so that they can continue the charade that they're looking like they're doing something. So And I'm definitely watching what's happening here in McLendon-Chisholm, like, just the types of decisions they're making, because ultimately, we are all affected, as homeowners, right? This is our it affects our property values and school and everywhere else, so, um
Agreed, and it is already impacting. I think the traffic is probably the biggest issue. I routinely kind of look at where our similar homes on similar lot size, similar house size, in different areas, we are being priced out. Like other areas like Flower Mound, Collin County, Little Elm, and then even some areas in the western part of DFW, we're not holding our values as well as other communities.
Ugh.
So that's sad. And that's just informal research. I'm not a statistician, but I think yeah, and you can also see, I do remember also, during the, voting that people didn't even wanna go to McLendon-Chisholm because they didn't want to see the people. You know how we have the people will sit out in front of City Hall? They didn't even wanna see them, so they went to the, annex to go vote, and oftentimes I will do the same thing because it's just so ugly.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's not professional, and it's just gross.
Mhm. So what are some messages would you give to someone who's considering to get involved in local government, but worries becoming a potential target? I mean, do you have any ideas? Do you think that, by stepping up and being brave and speaking out right now, do you think this could be something for someone else to, like, you know what, if you're speaking out about it, do you think that this is going to encourage someone to potentially run in the future?
Well, I hope that that's true. I know that I'm not the only person who has been targeted by this kind of activity. And if people, I didn't initially want to talk about any of this. And I'm being careful about what I do talk about because this isn't, there might be other actions that come out of this. So I don't want to say too much. And then also on top of that, the petition that the mayor and Dennis London filed against a bunch of does who then included us and I don't even know what the point of including us in the exhibits were. I always post with my names. I know you do too. So it's just silly, but, we had to respond to that, so I would tell people, "Make sure you have some money in the bank for some legal representation."
Mhm.
That's unfortunate, but that's kind of where we're at. Find friends and, get your network together, and, I think it's doable. I think if enough people get fed up, it will happen at some point. Taxes will have to be raised before significantly, and it is coming. Make no mistake about it. Um, and then people will get pissed and will start getting involved. So, and hopefully all of this, data center talk will start animating people, especially for McLennan Chisholm. I mean, we're the tiniest little town. Where are you going to put one? That's ridiculous.
Well, fortunately, we don't have any zoning that will qualify them. Now, out in the county, they don't have zoning. So there's that. So that's definitely an issue there that could, I don't think the state or the Senate would even be discussing offering zoning as an option to counties, to use as a tool or anything like that.
No, they've taken away all local control, and we're starting to see the negative downsides of that. Not just our county, lots of counties are upset about it, as well they should be. Uh, we need to we need to elect representatives in our state government who want smart growth, not just, oh, we're going to support developers' land rights. What about our land rights? We have property rights too, and we were here first.
Uh-huh.
And I know there's nothing that our county can do about it at this point. There's nothing really our city governments can, not as much as we would like, that they can do about some of these developments because of the way that the state laws are. and we do have elections coming up, and you know, I hope that some of the more recent examples, like the Epic City thing, and there's been some other examples where the state's stripping of local control has led to bigger problems.
There was some sort of thing signed with the judge to be able to allow this to happen, and so my curiosity for you is that if at the state level, based on what you experienced, is there any idea, like, what kinda changes that you would like to see to avoid situations like this to never happen to, obviously to your family, but to any family in the future? Does anything ring a bell that you could think of, like, what could have been done better to avoid the situation that maybe you have some insight on?
I definitely have some thoughts. I also don't think I don't feel that this was just use of lethal force, or the potential of it. That this level of force was not justified. So new laws aren't needed. The existing laws need to be needed. I'm sure that there are standards out there. I just think they weren't followed.
Mm, alright. Well, Erin, thank you for joining me today and for being willing to share your family's experience. I know these events are not easy to revisit, and I appreciate your willingness to talk about what happened and the impact it had on you and your loved ones. So no matter where people fall politically, I just think that we can all agree on one thing. No family should have to experience what yours experienced. When information is shared publicly, especially information involving someone's home, family, or reputation, the consequences can be very real. In this case, what occurred wasn't simply a Facebook discussion. There were real people on the receiving end of those comments. And there was trauma that continued long after the posts themselves disappeared. We've heard it from you. I mean, just your voice alone. I'm still like, there's just not a word that could justify the experience that you experienced. And so one of the questions we've explored today is accountability. Not just accountability in government, but accountability in how we communicate with one another as neighbors and members of the same community. Mistakes happen, people get things wrong. What matters is how those mistakes are addressed and whether we are willing to acknowledge the impact they have on others. My hope is that conversations like this encourage all of us to slow down, verify information before sharing it, and remember that there are real people behind every headline, social media post, and rumor. Most importantly, I hope nothing like this ever happens to another family. Thank you, Erin, for being here. Thank you for our listeners for joining us for episode 2 of the Adrienne Balcom Show. If you'd like to review the timeline, screenshots, supporting documents, and related articles discussed in today's episode, visit adriennebalcom.com. I'm Adrienne Balcom. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.